All right, we are live. John Dio, the AI man, Cody Willard, hedge fund dude, writer, Bryce Smith, hedge fund analyst extraordinaire. We got all the answers, none of the questions.
I was going to put it the other way around, but so I have a question.
What's that?
How did the market close out? First off,
it tried to rally back and then faded, and after hours trying to rally back again. It'll be a battle.
Because I feel like people are saying or going to say, "Oh, see, it was an AI bubble."
No, that's absolutely.
Yeah, people are already saying that.
Yeah,
but I'm like, it seems more to me like it was a bubble.
Well, let's back up. Number one, welcome to the AI Revolution call. That's what we're doing here today. We're talking mostly about AI, but John is segueing us to market discussion to start off with, but it's not unrelated to AI. There was a very successful, famous hedge fund manager published his letter late last week. Bryce, what was it that we read today? Elliott Management. They're an activist fund. And in it, he literally said, AI is a bubble and there's no use cases that are going to justify the spend. And, there's certainly, we've had that discussion on this platform with you over the last 2 to 3 months that the $120 billion that Microsoft, Google, Meta, Tesla, and others will combined spend on AI infrastructure and chips and data centers this year, just 1 year of spend, CapEx on that stuff, there has to be use cases to justify that spend, probably. There is also a prisoner's dilemma happening where if Microsoft spends $20 billion this year and I'm Google and I don't spend $20 billion this year, I might have an existential crisis where I don't exist in 5 years. But if I do spend the $20 billion, maybe I overspent, but I'm still here. So they're going to do it anyway, whether that use case really develops or not. But the problem is if that use case doesn't develop, if the market starts punishing Microsoft, Apple, Apple's not really spending that kind of money. Microsoft, Google, Meta, Tesla, if those stocks get crushed 20, 30, 40% from here over the next month or two, they're going to stop spending that much. They're going to lower their CapEx budget for the year. The market is telling them they're overspent. At that point, the market would be telling them they're overspending. With Tesla specifically, it's different because Tesla is using all of their spend, all of the infrastructure on AI that they're spending. They're developing their own proprietary, real physical world use cases, not creating another LLM that competes against OpenAI. They're trying to make their cars drive. They're trying to make their Optimus robots learn how to do things. So there's, it's hard to. With the Tesla case, it's different, but it's hard to argue that Microsoft, Meta, Google, and others are not overspending. They're spending every possible dime they can get their hands on OpenAI. On AI infrastructure, and it's too much. NVIDIA's going to benefit from all of that, but if the H100, Bryce, tell them what you were saying today about the ChatGPT-3 was trained on
NVIDIA A100s.
ChatGPT-5 will be trained on.
Wait, hang on. What did you say?
3 was A100s.
Yeah, and
5
they're training now is on H100s. Yeah.
H100s and Blackwell, the next generation NVIDIA. It's not just even a chip; it's an entire server system. The Blackwell is how much better is H100 than A100? 10 times?
Yeah, I'll mess up the numbers, so I don't want to say, but
right, John,
orders of magnitude.
Yeah, around an order of a magnitude better, and then the Blackwell also will be 5 to 10 times better than the H100. So they're what you're seeing right now is a year old, 2 years old AI systems that have been trained on that are systems that have been trained on AI that's 2 years old.
On chips that are 2 years
on chips that are 2 years old. Thereby, but the chips are the AI almost, I guess. At any rate, that's it's. I don't think we can say that there's not an AI bubble. If Meta and Google and Microsoft generate tens of billions of dollars of additional high margin sales revenues off of AI products, it's all going to work out. If they don't, and if the markets keep doing what they did today in the last 3 days, you know, the AI bubble, it was here. We just lived through it.
There's two kind of distinctions that I don't know if I say I would make or I'd ask about whether it's the case. One has to do with you know, is it just AI that's a bubble when I see something burst like what's happening today over the next few days or whatever, and the other is to do with you know, saying bubble from the standpoint of like, is there value there? You know, is this stuff actually going to have, you know, the promise that they say? So on the first one, I go, well, the markets just crashed all around the world. Was it literally because of an AI bubble, or was it that there's some, you know, lack of confidence in, you know, the economy and AI along with it? It's like, you know, our whole opinion of everything is going down and you're coming with us.
Yeah, John, Bryce has heard me say this probably 150 times in the last 6 months when we're talking about the markets and the economy. Nothing happens in a vacuum. And so the AI bubble contributed to a stock market bubble. The AI bubble doesn't even really exist because it's a promise that what you're saying, like, it could end up actually providing real application services and high margin growth for all kinds of Coca-Cola to Microsoft. That being said, the S&P 500, when we walked in here last week, a week ago today, the S&P 500 was trading at 22, 23 times earnings. Historically, 16 to 17 times is average-ish. Interest rates are higher than they have been my entire professional career, which means that the market, instead of trading at a premium to its usual price to earnings ratio, should be trading at a discount, probably, unless that economic growth is so good. Again, nothing happens in a vacuum, but it's not like the market was undervalued by most, unless there's real growth ahead, partly because AI is going to propel us through that growth. The market was overvalued a week ago.
So what's S&P trading at now on average?
18, 19?
So it came down into a normal range.
I bet not.
It's still
Not
20.
yet?
Yeah.
It's still around 20, 19,
Yeah.
20.
Still
It's come
high.
down a little bit, but
Yeah.
you know, like, so we're still in bubblish territory unless the economy and AI specifically propels the economy through a high growth, high margin, very prosperous phase.
So
That's been the premise till now.
you say nothing happens in a vacuum, but really except chip making. But
And space flight.
oh, there you go. My thing would be has the different question, again, away from the markets a little bit, but have we seen like all of what AI can do for us and it's done what it can do? No way. That's
No.
the part where I say like it's nowhere near reached its potential.
Yeah.
You know,
One of the
that
smartest-
doesn't mean is it overpriced or are they spending too much or whatever.
Right. Like those are all like it can be, AI can change the world, but it might change it in 5 years. And what you spent right now looks horrible in 2 years, and then it still works out or something.
Mm-hmm.
I had one of the smartest guys I know emailed me today because Bryce and I had written an article last week talking about how we talked about this on the recent call, that there would be apps for the robots. So the NVIDIA robot, the Tesla robot, Optimus robot, will have thousands of different apps that you can subscribe to or purchase and download, and then it'll create a new skill set that the robot can go. What I used was tie rebar on a construction site. And the guy wrote me back and he's one of the smartest guys I know, and apparently he's worked construction in the past because he's like, I actually know about rebar, and how hard it is and everything that goes into it. And he said his question was, is there any data or evidence to support your theory that someday the Optimus robot would be able to do rebar tying on construction sites? And he had a picture of this chart from Goldman Sachs in a report. And now, of course, I'm not going to find.
I think it's Morgan Stanley.
Is that no? It's right here. This is it. It shows AI adoption across various industries. And if you'll notice, what's the very bottom one there? Construction. And he was like
the least likely.
According to Goldman Sachs, the construction industry is one of the least likely beneficiaries of the humanoid robot revolution.
Because it's dirty and requires strength, and everything, every environment's different. And
they didn't go into that much detail. That they got 20 different industries.
Name some of the others that they do.
So he thinks information.
What's that?
Goldman Sachs thinks the information industry will be the most likely impacted.
But robots, though.
Healthcare and social assistance, administration, support and waste management, retail trade, manufacturing, other services, wholesale trade. But these are all on the lower end of this.
What a warehouse.
It's right there under. I
thought warehouse would be pretty high.
The point that I'm going to make here is, he said, look, if it turns out that the Optimus robot actually has a use case in the next 5 to 7 years for construction, these estimates and most of Wall Street's estimates are out the window. Like, so do I have any data or evidence to support that? And I said, no. That would be like asking me in 2006, 2 years before the iPhone hit, do I have any evidence or data to support the fact that you were someday going to be able to summon a car ride share service at the airport or at your house or at any major city, and you would know how long it is before it gets to you, how much it's going to cost, how long it'll take you to get to the location you're going to, and what the tip and the rating of the driver is. That you don't have data or evidence to support that until we get the product. Like, you can't have data or evidence to support rebar tying at construction sites until Optimus Robot is out in the world and there is an app built by someone who has trained a program to go into the Optimus Robot and do that stuff. So
that's why I think that,
look, what's happening in the AI revolution right now is probably equivalent to 2006 in the smartphone revolution, or maybe 1995 with the internet revolution. It's just about to hit. If you were, and again, I know you in 1995. I remember us going to Barnes and Noble and you buying the new Bill Gates book talking about the potential of this networked computer world. And he was basically downplaying it. And that like, you had to have a vision that the internet would eventually enable Facebook and FaceTime and sharing videos and trillion-dollar industries. And so I think that's the same thing. We're at that with AI right now. But for the record, just to finish this thought process, the .com internet revolution has changed our world over the last 25 to 30 years, but we did have an outright bubble and an outright crash. The NASDAQ was down 75% from 2000 to 2002. The smartphone came out in 2008 in the midst of a stock market crash. And so it doesn't mean that we won't have a crash, even if the AI revolution is everything we hope for. Thoughts? Feedback? Questions? Pushback? If you guys are watching the video, put your comments on Facebook or YouTube. It'll show up here and we'll answer your questions or argue your points.
So I think in 2006, I didn't predict Uber, but I think it's possible that it could have been predicted based on people who knew how the stuff's getting smaller, what you can carry with you, what location type things happen. that cell phone was already around, looking at different combinations of things and going, I think something like this will be possible. I wouldn't have guessed it, but I say that I think it's possible in order to say what kind of thinking could we apply to now to help us with what, it's going to be like in 2 years. We do know some things that are happening. We know Optimus is being built, and what the talk is about, what could go on with it and so forth. But like, if you had to think about what are I don't know the iPhone in 2006.
I did. For the record, I used to write about that Apple was soon to take the iPod and create an iMini MacBook Pro for your pocket that had complete broadband internet. And I didn't picture Uber per se. I also didn't picture that I was going to be able to track my dogs on my property or if they got out of the property using a collar that they have that also has GPS on an app that's connected to my
I don't think you had property. I think you were in New York, but
you get my point.
Yeah.
But I didn't picture that all of the apps, like certainly, there's millions of apps for the smartphones now, and I pictured 10 of them, not 990,000 of them. But I think that is the biggest mistake. I wrote this recently, and we need to remember this. We need to write this and remember this, you and I. The biggest mistakes, the single biggest mistakes I've made in my career is doubting how big technological revolutions can become. And we're at the cusp of the humanoid robotics revolution, which probably can be the single largest revolution since electricity. And if that is true, if manual labor is about to be completely disrupted with high margin robotics doing it for you or for your company, the entire economy is about to change. Margins are about to change. Prosperity in the country and around the world is about to get better. Yes, there will be ever bigger wealth gaps. The rich are going to get richer. The guys who do manual labor are going to get poorer. But the overall prosperity of the country and society will propel forward, and the stock market along with it. And the companies that drive the humanoid revolution will be worth tens of trillions of dollars.
It's funny coming from you because you were always more on the kind of optimistic side, and you're just saying you just weren't even.
Like literally, that's my gig, right? I'm truly the revolution investor guy.
Yeah.
And as big as I pictured Apple, like I predicted Apple would become a $1 trillion company in 2010, and it took 9 years. But it got there, and now it's a $3 trillion company. I undershot. Like I was off by an order, like not quite an order of magnitude, but 2 times, like it's 3 times bigger than I ever thought it could be. And it's probably in 10 years going to be a $10 trillion company. So yeah, man, like, yes, the market needs its ass kicked. It's the 7th grader who needs the 9th grader who's bigger to punch it in the face and get so it's not so cocky, and get some fear back in the system and get some of the greed, and the crypto washout would be great. Oh God, thank God. We're finally getting the crypto washout. Bitcoin down 20% in a straight line, 15% today alone. Ethereum down 22% today. Let's get the shit coins down 99%, and we can put in a bottom for Bitcoin and be off back to the races. But we got to wash this shit out first. That's a different topic than the AI revolution. That's the Skittles call on Wednesday. For that discussion, come back Wednesday, same bat channel, same bat place.
So about the humanoid robots, it is, aside from whether rebar happens to be the thing, it's I don't feel like it's a safe bet, and maybe even under betting to say that there will be something like the equivalent of apps on a large scale, where it's fine that Tesla or Figure can put out these humanoid robots that are dexterous and amazing, and they can learn things, but they don't know much, and they need to be out in the world experiencing different things. And some company's going to take them over here and teach them these kinds of things, and somebody's going to take them over there and teach them those other kinds of things, and it's both going to upload back to somewhere. And then there's going to be the company that's the great centralizer of the hub and spoke of handing out the skills and and charging for when those skills get used. And
basically 30% God tax for Apple, Tesla, or Google, or NVIDIA, depending on whose platform it's all built on. Bryce, you have a thought?
No, I agree.
Yeah.
So that's a fair. So here's the thing. When you talk about is it overvalued? Well, where does the value come from? It comes from the thing actually having returns. And what are returns? Well, on the one hand, it could be like taking jobs, and it's like, I got this thing for $30,000 I'm gonna have for 5 years doing a thing that I was paying $50 per year. So there's like 250,000 versus 30,000. It's like a big savings on not. And separately, we've got to figure out what do we do about all the people that don't have those jobs, et cetera. Serious issue to figure out. But that's one place where the value is. But it's like, okay, so there's only so much you get from taking away jobs, and you got to also have like increased output.
Right. But that comes with more prosperity. With it, if you're a construction company and you make $100 million a year in revenue, and you pay out $90 million a year in labor, your gross profits are $10 million. This isn't pure accounting stuff. You get the idea, though.
Right.
But if you're in your example, what you're talking about, your labor costs drop 90% on an annualized basis over 5 years. And so now, instead of $90 million of labor, it's $10 million of labor. I bet my numbers are wrong. If your $100 million revenue, $60 million goes to labor.
Yeah.
Now it's going to be $6 million in labor.
Yeah.
But your profits just went up $54 million.
Right.
That $54 million that company and its shareholders now prosper with, and they take that money, and what do they do with it? They allocate it to other places that put that money to use and build other things. John, you and I have talked about this, and Bryce and I, since I met him. He was 12 when I met him. I might be exaggerating, 17. John, you were 16 when I met you. I might be exaggerating. You were 26. But we have had this discussion for many years, trying to understand what money is, what economies are, how it all ties together, what makes things work. And the reason the United States has prospered, unlike any society prior, is because we have understood that it's not a zero-sum game. The more prosperous Coca-Cola becomes, the more wealthy its shareholders become. The more wealthy the shareholders become, the better the health insurance in the system becomes, the better the poor people get paid so that they can get cheaper goods. The more the goods get cheaper, it all is like, and that's the pure thing that we're talking about. What you're asking about with the promise of AI is the same thing that's the promise of any dollar ever invested. The only reason you should ever create a company is because you're providing a service or a good to the world that people want. And the only reason they would ever give you their hard-earned money or hard-inherited money, whatever the case may be, is because it either brings them joy or it makes their lives easier. And so tell me that's not the promise of AI. When we look at AI, whether you're playing with OpenAI or picturing what the robots can do, you're picturing the world doing services and goods that you want, that you would be willing to pay for, and hopefully you don't have to pay as much for.
So something you said was a kind of a reminder of like an economics lesson for me of like, the World Series is going to go take place in some city or something. And it's like, they say for every dollar spent by people coming into the city for that, it's actually, $2.10 or something. It's like, well, why? Well, because it moves around and it gets spent here. And then the person who gets it there spends it here. And it's like, it's not like there's more money than that, but it's like money moves. And as it moves, it's, it's worth more.
The purest example of how to describe what you're talking about is if you have a society of 5 people and all of them owe one of the other guys $1. There's $4 of debt. One guy actually has $1. He went outside of the fence, got a job, earned $1, came back. He paid the guy he owed $1 back. And that guy's like, awesome. I'll go pay the guy I owed $1 back. Hey, I'll go pay the guy I owed $1 back. I'll go pay $1. And you had $1 of earnings that wiped out $4 or $5 of debt. But it's true. Like, that's money. That's how money works. It's not. Yeah. That sort of look like Trump. You're gonna have more money than you'll have so much money you'll hate money.
So it's like, to apply that now to AI getting into the economy, and these things we're talking about, of people getting new things that they want or need and so forth. And I think that if there's that company that had was clearing 10 million and now they're clearing 50 million or whatever, that if they're like a construction company, all of a sudden they can like go do housing like on a level happening.
Yeah, and truly think about like the CEO of that company's bonus goes from $1 million to $10 million, and he's going to go buy a Lear jet, and he's going to hire a pilot. And the company that sold him the Lear jet's going to have more profits because that guy had the extra money, and the pilot's going to have more money than he had, and the pilot's family is going to have more money, and there's going to be more health insurance for the pilot's family, and it is a self-fulfilling virtuous cycle. That is the most amazing thing about economies, and that is why the United States, for all of its faults and corruption and Republican Democrat regime horribleness, it still has the system where we allow prosperity to spread, and we realize that the bigger the GDP gets, the better the life is for 90% of the people. Maybe the bottom 5 or 10%, it sucks. It's hard. And I know that. And I don't know what the system is. I don't know if we need a universal basic income for all the people that get wiped out with their jobs and the Labor Day jobs and the drivers and the trucks and all of this. My instinct is absolutely not, because anytime the government is redistributing wealth, it's corrupt and they steal more than they give out. The churches, charities should be stepping up. We don't need any more mega churches. The mega churches need to just start sending their universal basic income to poor people. But
sorry?
That's a long way from here. I don't know any mega churches ready to start sending poor people money.
No. So but it also makes me get new meaning to stagnant economy, because if economy is like what this great thing that happens as it all moves around and it's vibrant, then if it goes stagnant, then that dollar that came in from outside never makes it around the horn.
That's a great point. Not even stagnant. That's where recessions and especially depressions get to be so vicious, because right now, if the economy grows 3%, what's the economy GDP? $27 trillion or something? Let's call it 25 trillion in the US.
That's insane.
27, 28.
Let's just go with a round number. $25 trillion in the United States. When I started my job on Wall Street, it was $7 trillion. So in the last 28 years, every year is an extra $20 trillion moving around, and all I got to do is get my bucket in front of a little bit of that, and I make money. And that's where the wealth grows. That's why growth in the GDP and growth in the economy is so important for everyone. But we also need recessions because they clean out excesses. Like, nothing happens in a vacuum, and things don't go straight up forever. You got to kick some asses. You got to get some fear. You got to wipe some money out. You got to wipe out companies that are not actually providing services and goods that anybody wants and are operating at a losses. Fisker, I'm talking to you, etc.
So, but can you picture, you see it in the GDP, but can you picture, as we try to talk about, what value can AI bring? And you look at what it does and you go, this is unbelievable. In our lifetimes, in 1,000 years, whatever, that in this couple of years right here, all of a sudden, the stuff that's happening is like these things that are becoming as smart as people themselves. It's science fiction. It's like, how is this even real? But then I look at it and I go, can you identify 20 trillion or something, dollars of value
truly, again,
happening?
That's a good sort of closing of the circle here. And then we can maybe move on to actual AI news and some AI discussions. Although, this is all sort of rooted on the AI prosperity premise. But what would happen is that you and I and Bryce, as smart as the three of us are collectively, have no ability to picture the thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of applications and services and products that humanoid robots and AI can help us create for society that provides that meets demands, that makes people's lives easier or more entertaining.
Well, there may be 20,000 of those things, but don't they all come into like 4 buckets or something? They either save you time, or they save you money, or they
entertain you,
happen faster,
or they entertain you.
Yeah.
Are you not entertained?
I'm not $20 trillion entertained.
The hundreds of people watching this, are you not entertained? Let me answer some questions that we had pop up here. What stocks will be the new leadership?
Come back Wednesday.
Yeah, no. Look, clearly that's what the concern is here, that the Mag 7, the AI leaders have maybe overspent. I think NVIDIA is still probably very good. The only way NVIDIA is not a good play here right now at $95 or $100 a share is if the worst case scenario happens, that Meta, Apple, Meta, Google, NVIDIA, Meta, Google, Microsoft, Tesla are down 20% in the next 3 months. If they are down 20% in the next 3 months, at the next earnings quarterly report, they're going to say, yeah, I know you thought we were going to spend $22 billion on NVIDIA chips. It's only $15 billion. And then NVIDIA is going to come down.
Do you actually see any of the Mag 7 or, like getting knocked out out of the top by any of this?
Not necessarily. The question is what will lead the market? And that's what I'm trying to answer. It's not like I think they get knocked out, but do I think
leadership?
Like his leadership positions, the Mags have been the leaders.
Yeah. Do you see them getting knocked out of the lead based on this?
I mean, that's when like defense stocks can come back, or because there's so much war going around the world. So now all of a sudden RTX and Boeing are up 20 to 30% by the end of the year, and these stocks are flat or something. I mean, that is the kind of leadership that can change that can happen.
Yeah.
And it's not unlikely. It's not necessarily likely, but
how about SpaceX, considering Boeing can't even get their craft back to Earth? So
Bryce and I are investors in SpaceX, but the rest of you guys, unless you're going to go overpay for commissions and carry, we bought it 5 years ago, and we definitely SpaceX wins, but it's not publicly traded, so it's stock elite.
So, like, I strongly recommend that you get into SpaceX 5 years ago.
That's very helpful. Thank you. Could you tell me to cover every short I had 6 hours ago at the open? That would have been helpful, John. Where were you? Next questions. Any thoughts on ARMS? Run for the fucking hills. Things going to 50 again. It's IPO price. Sorry, I cussed, Kumar. Everybody watching, I apologize. I missed. We have been long. I've talked about this on Trading with Cody at various points. We have had puts on ARM. We got pretty big on puts on ARM about a month ago. We had probably a third of as many puts as we did at that time, but I sold a few puts on ARM this morning, not all of them, unfortunately, but when it rallied $16 off the lows, I went and bought some puts back. I think ARM, it's even at the top, it was trading at 100 times sales, not earnings. It was trading at 100 times revenue. It's now trading at 50 times revenue. We need to come down to like 30 times revenue, and then we can have a discussion if ARM's okay. I'm avoiding ARM. It's a great company for the record, but Risk 5, Bryce, John, you know about Risk 5 and ARM and competition of designing AI chips.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When Tesla designed their personal AI chip, Bryce, what'd they use?
Risk 5.
Not
Not ARM.
And Meta, when they designed their own chip, what they use?
RISC-V.
Not.
Not ARM.
ARM.
How about Google? They used ARM.
I don't know.
I think they used ARM and Avago. Hyde, here we go. Next question. What is a good price to nibble on Bitcoin? I mean, if you don't own any Bitcoin, I would start nibbling a 10% position now. And then every 10% lower from here, buy another 10%. And if it gets down to 45,000, buy a third of one position, and it gets down to below 40,000, make it your full size position. Give yourself some room. And for the record, it can go to 20,000 too. So you got to be careful. Avoid all non-Bitcoin cryptos for a while. Any thoughts on Tesla? I got thoughts on Tesla. Damn, I mean, we wrote the ultimate Tesla book, right, Bryce?
Yep.
What are your thoughts on Tesla, Bryce? Answer the question, and then we'll let John, and then I'll either just say awesome or have a little bit.
We love Tesla. It's one of our biggest positions. It has been, but we think, there's some challenges probably near term just with economics and stuff of the bigger part of the economy. But, in the long run, they've got to figure out robo-taxi and or full self-driving and the Optimus robot. And that's what they're working on right now. And if they don't get that figured out in the next year or so, then there's probably pain ahead.
John?
Was Musk saying some people should sell?
No, we're not saying that at all. We are saying
Musk. Did Musk say?
Yeah, and I agree with him on this point. He said, if you do not believe they can solve full self-driving or make the Optimus robot a success, you better sell that Tesla stock. And I 100% agree on that. If Tesla is purely an electric vehicle company, and you give zero value to autonomy and zero value to the Optimus robots, that stock should probably be trading 70% lower than it is right now. 50 to $100 would be a good price target for that. If you believe in robo-taxis, autonomous driving, and the Optimus robot, anywhere between here and 250 is noise, or even like 150 to 250 is noise.
What's the market cap right now on
800 billion?
Yeah.
So it could be, in our book, we model out what 15 years from now, robo-taxis and robots could be generating profit-wise. And we came up with $3 trillion of profit. You throw a 10 multiple on that, the market cap at Tesla would be 30 trillion. So from 800 billion to 30 trillion, pretty nice return over 15 years. But they need to solve this stuff. So, look, I sold a couple. We hedged our Tesla in the last month also pretty aggressively. And again, last week we were buying puts on Tesla to hedge it a little bit. And we sold a handful of those puts today, but we own tens of thousands of shares of Tesla and sold the equivalent of 500 shares worth of puts. So I guess you could say we're sort of a buyer here, but not. We made our bet on Tesla the last year around 120 to 180.
What's it trading at now?
199.62 after hours. I made that up. I don't know. About between 195 and 200 all day. So, any thoughts on TMDX? Great earnings. Farouk, you must be a Trading with Cody subscriber. You and my readers are about the only people on the planet that knows Transmedics. TMDX is a stock that we own. It's been one of our best winners this year. The stock's been on fire because every earnings report they come out and they're like, hey, we're going to help more people get healthy heart transplants than we ever thought possible. Hey, we're going to get liver transplants for everybody. And they're changing the way that the transplant system, they're saving hundreds of thousands of lives over the next 5 years with their technology. So, yeah, I mean, look, but to be clear, it's crazy expensive right now. The stocks, we were buying it at 70, it's 160 or something, 150 now. So just catch your breath a little bit.
What's the margin on a life?
Oh, the gross margin on a life depends on how beautiful or ugly the person is, whether they're gross.
Inside. Yeah.
If you're a jerk, your gross margin is huge.
You're gross, hugely gross.
Gross. Thanks for playing along with my puns, John. You've done this for decades. All right. Let's hit some AI revolution news for the next 10 to 20 minutes. Last week we did an hour and 20-minute long AI call or something. I can't
Really?
end this week.
Oh man, that.
All right, Elon
Flew.
Musk. Have you guys heard of Elon Musk?
Yes.
Heard of him? Yeah.
Okay, he runs a couple of companies. Might matter or might
He's
not.
kind of boring though.
It is. He's never boring.
That's a joke on one of his companies there.
Oh, boring.
Yeah.
Well played. Didn't right over the head there. Right through. Right tunneled right through me. Elon is suing Sam Altman.
He dropped that lawsuit.
Not as of today. It's back, baby. He called. Oh, you
serious?
got to hear this quote, John. It's fantastic. Here, I'll share my screen.
The same thing?
Same screen, same lawsuit. A little more serious now. I like the wording here. Where was the perfidy? I want to see the perfidy comment. There it is. The perfidy and deceit is of Shakespearean proportions. Well written, whoever his attorney is,
Yeah.
or Grok AI might have written that for his attorney.
I doubt it.
You don't think so?
Yeah.
You weren't aware, John, that just hit. John's reading the news. So at
Perfect.
any rate, I'm thrilled. I think Sam Altman is a scumbag, and I am ready for him to get his comeuppance. I'm ready for him to be fired again. We still don't know why he got fired for lying, but apparently he was lying to the board, and then it was okay. And I think Microsoft bet on the wrong horse. Now, that being said, Bryce uses OpenAI about 6 hours a day. We're literally like uploading our book to that thing and telling it to what we should expect the markets to do next. This is a book I wrote 10 years ago. You can go find it. Actually, you have to go to tradingwithcody.com to read this book. It's not on Amazon. It's about the only book we never published on Amazon. We probably should have.
You know, it's kind of funny with just ChatGPT's business model. I hadn't thought of this before, but the incentive for me is to use it as much as possible because I've already paid for it once a month and it's a fixed fee and there's no additional expense for running additional queries. But for ChatGPT, all I'm doing is running up their costs, and there's no limit on how many queries I could upload books for the next hour or 10 hours and have it read and analyze and do stupid stuff. And
it might shut you down eventually.
Maybe,
and then be like, come back tomorrow because
Why do you think it's unlimited?
You know, I've always wondered why, if you go back into the first 100 years of telecom, AT&T charged by the minute. Granted, it was $3 a minute in 1972 to call Italy. And by the time the smartphone revolution came around, it was 30 cents a minute to call Italy. But they were at least charging you for how much of their network bandwidth you were using. And I have thought forever, Bryce, I'm glad you brought this back up. I hadn't thought of this in 20 years. For the last 20 years, Verizon, AT&T, and all the telecom companies were like, it's all in, $100 a month, and you can use whatever you want. You can have it all. And eventually they were like, yeah, we'll limit you if you go crazy. But I've never understood, why wouldn't ChatGPT charge the guys who are using their services more than the other guy more money?
Yeah.
They do for the API.
I mean, if you're using the APIs, I think they do.
They do for the API.
Right,
but
but
for consumers,
And
no.
there's only so much you can do like this. You sit there
use
using
it a lot.
ChatGPT. It's like, furiously tell it something.
oh,
It's
he's talking to it. He's making, like today he was on Llama making
That's
videos
nothing.
where it was translating his market commentary into Spanish. It was
It's
brilliant.
nothing. It's a little. It's like it's a bit of what do you call that? Like a loss leader.
Yeah.
I mean, the actual heavy volume usage is like what I'm doing, where even though I use open source, it still costs a lot because just the compute power. Now we're getting to the chips again.
Right.
Like you're trying to actually do, like I have this thing running on thousands of pages of documents and going through them and processing and making summaries and chopping them into pieces and all whatever stuff. And that through the API. Now that's expensive.
So are you guys using Llama now, John?
I think so. As of today.
Oh,
So
wow.
we were using Mixtral, and our service that we were doing it with they changed how they're doing things. We had to find a new place to do it, and we have to host something that I think we're using A100s, and we don't need H100s yet with what we're doing. And also that's different on the training side versus when you're actually running the thing, but still getting machines that have those kind of like chips in them or behind them and stuff, even if you're getting them hosted or renting them or something, it's pretty expensive.
Yeah. A semiconductor analyst I read a lot, he seems to think that Llama and the Meta platform are really what everyone is shifting to at the enterprise level. And NVIDIA is behind all of it, but NVIDIA and Meta are pretty deeply integrated as well.
Well, I mean, Meta 3.1's been around.
And Accenture.
And Accenture, yeah.
Meta 3.1's been around like all of 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's hard to go talk about like whatever everybody's doing, but it's like,
yeah. But I think the move was headed that way even before 3.1 came out. Llama 2 Jensen said Llama 2 was the most important event of the year last year because it was so good and it was all open source and free to the public.
Yeah, well, 3.1 is good enough to be like on a GPT-4 level. So.
Yeah.
And it's open source
all the way.
And all 3 billion users on Facebook get to use it for free. I think that's crazy. I really don't know where ChatGPT is going to end up because it is good and it's probably the best and it's got the most.
It depends.
But
let's see what their next version.
The competition is there and in full force.
And John, you brought it up last week. It's like until someone actually leapfrogs ChatGPT, like ChatGPT is sort of the de facto standard out there. But I think what Bryce is hinting at and what your anecdote right now doesn't confirm, but is another bullet point in its favor that Llama's like winning. Meta Llama is a winning platform. Whether it becomes the winner of it all, winner takes all, is a different discussion. But it is
Claude as well. Claude is right up there. But Llama is open source, and so for it to be Claude and OpenAI are both closed source and paid for and so forth. But like I said, like these things have caught up to what OpenAI came out with a year ago, maybe a year and a half is when this actually was made. So like OpenAI has been doing something in that time. I'm not talking GPT-4o. I mean,
OpenAI has been stealing from Elon. Oh, that's not what you meant. Sorry. They've been doing other things besides lying, cheating, and stealing.
They're training GPT-5.
Okay, right now. They're training GPT-5. Fine.
Yeah, it's like, what is that? That's where the kind of moment of truth, when that comes out, is it like they said last week, I think they're getting better and better at saying how great that next thing is going to be.
That's funny.
John, I really want to know how does AI get better? I think I've talked a lot about chips, but in terms of the algorithm side, I don't know the answer to this. How do the algorithms themselves get better, or are they getting better? Are we still fundamentally relying on the transformer technology that came out 7 years ago now?
I mean, there's other stuff being talked about, papers being written, things coming out from, what's his name, who's always giving Elon Musk a hard time, the guy.
Oh, yeah, the Meta guy?
Yeah, the French guy.
I don't really know that much about him, but I see him on Twitter.
Yeah, he's a legit scientist and everything. But he just goes a little overboard going after Musk. But
I go overboard going after Altman.
No, I think you're on target there. But it's
wow.
I'm kidding.
But
he has VJEPA, V-JEPA is an architecture for that's not a transformer, right? That is about, I think, like video-based learning of like predict what's going to happen next, and then when it does do that thing, go back and learn from that, and then have a different thing you guess at, and so forth. And so there's a little of the like next token thing. Instead, though, it's the next thing that happens in the world of the record of the video that's being played, so forth. Like the computer's like, I'm watching this video and I think the cat's going to land on its feet, you know? And it's like, oh, it did. Yes, I was right about that. You know, so there's a whole other level of logic and reasoning going on with I don't know a lot about VG, but that's, you know, I just know that it's one of those ones that's different.
Yeah.
And so there's a ton of research going on.
The fundamental technology is changing and evolving and still developing. We're not
Even algorithmically.
even just the algorithms. You're not worried that we've stagnated.
No, in fact, I think that it's like for years when when neural networks first came around, and then they got a smackdown from Marvin Minsky from his book about why they'll never work, which is funny because he's a genius, but he was wrong about that one. But it set off the kind of AI winter where no one would spend. And now that this thing is working kind of amazingly, there is a lot going. It's not, and some will complain, oh, everybody's focusing too much on transformers. Well, even just the breadcrumbs falling off the side of it is more than was going on in AI research. There's a ton of AI research going on. So I think there's a lot of room for interesting things to be happening.
Takeaway is buy Meta.
Yeah.
Be careful because we might have an AI revolution. We all agree we do have an AI revolution building, but it might need a crash in the middle of things soon. And if the Fed cuts rates, buy puts that day and the next day. That is Bryce and I are the only two people on the planet who think that if the Fed starts cutting rates, it's bearish.
I don't think you're the only one. I was just hearing that today, but it's
no, you did not. I guarantee you did not hear that.
I heard
Nobody thinks it.
I heard that if they go make a rate cut, it's going to be an admission that things are about to get even worse. But
I think that shit.
I think there's somebody who heard it from you.
It better be, because I'll kick his ass if it was his own idea. This is my idea.
I believe that.
You better pay me a nickel for that idea. I trademarked that shit.
Yeah. So it's like you just said that there is an AI revolution, but there may be some downturn in the middle of it and so forth. It's like, yeah, there may be some downturn, and it may not even just be AI though. It's just downturn.
Really, it would ideally. I mean, I personally would benefit perfectly if the market would crash. Like if the NASDAQ will be down another 10 to 15%. And AI stocks are completely demolished. We'll sell all of our puts, cover all of our shorts, and ride the AI revolution for the next 5 years.
Start to buy back in as it comes back up.
We need some fear. We need people not asking. Unfortunately, I love you, Ro and Farouk, but we need people saying, should we sell everything? Not what's going to lead. We should say, hey, do you think I should blow out of my arm now or when I have even more losses? We need people saying, hey, what is a good price to sell Bitcoin? We need people saying, hey, do you think Tesla is going to zero? Are you a seller at current levels? And we need thoughts on, hey, any thoughts on TMDX? It keeps going down and it sucks. Like, then we could get a little more bullish. That is the way the world works, unfortunately.
Needs to clear out a little, your irrational exuberance.
That to quote the evil Alan Greenspan, who pretended he was a objectivist and never was, soon became an outright socialist pig.
The man's dead, isn't he?
Nah, he's just senile. He explained how Bitcoin has unlimited. People can print more Bitcoin forever, so it'll never work. I saw him.
I heard this guy who's, I think, the head of the Council of Economic Advisors.
Oh, it's so bad. I used to interview that guy.
I saw him getting interviewed, and they asked him about,
about bonds.
What's that?
About bonds.
Well, and the one I heard it was about how is it that we can both print money and still borrow money? Why don't we just use what we print? And he
literally was like, "What? When we sell bonds, are we borrowing money, or are we?"
But he didn't know for himself. He couldn't answer.
He was like, "I get confused on this sometimes."
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
like
trying
I
to pull it
got
up.
scared when I
Jared
heard that.
Bernstein, that's his name. Jared Bernstein. I used to interview that joker all the time.
I got scared when I heard him respond like that. I was like, who's driving the boat?
Nobody. Nobody. Here we go. Let's see. Jared. There you go. This.
I'm back in
I
my
don't want
office.
that. I want to see the real deal here. Let's see.
What's it, Jared? What?
Is this it, Bryce? This is about the right time.
What can you tell them about the degree?
You're sitting down. It was a TV show. And you know what? The worst part of whatever this video is that we're looking for, the idea, look, we're getting the point of this video was simply that the head of the economic advisor to Biden, and by the way, I'm not pro-Biden or anti-Biden. I anti-Republicans and Democrats of all sorts. But this guy came out and explained that he did not know the difference between buying a bond or selling a bond and whether or not the government's borrowing money when they sell a bond. He could not understand it, and he is the head of the economic advisors.
The head.
But the worst part, John, is that the people interviewing him were interviewing him for a documentary that's entire premise was that borrowing infinite amount of money, a government should borrow and print an infinite amount of money to take care of its citizenry.
Yes, like you just as fast as you can get it printed, so to speak. It's like just keep going.
And so he was sitting there trying to explain, as a Republican Democrat regimer who has run the deficit up from 1 trillion to 30 trillion in my lifetime, he's part of that because he was under Obama, he was under Clinton, he's under Biden, and the Trumps and the Bushes did it too. They've all done it. They all borrow money endlessly, print money endlessly, and then he had to defend why they shouldn't borrow and print money endlessly.
What's his name?
That's his entire, all Republicans and Democrats, that's all they know how to do.
What's his name again?
Jared Bernstein. One of the worst parts, but the best parts of being an anchor on Fox was interviewing people like Austin Goolsbee or Jared Bernstein or whatever the Republican equivalents are, and seeing or like who was Trump's the mustached up guy who's the foreign secretary?
I'm not sure.
Oh, come on, you know this guy.
Secretary of State?
Yeah, who was that?
It wasn't the Exxon guy?
No, different. Trump. I can't remember. These guys all know who he is. Anyway, interviewing all these people who, in my lifetime, were holding up under Trump, Biden, Obama, and Bush, like major White House advisor council people, and seeing just how lightweight and stupid they really were.
I found it. It's one called Biden's economic advisor tries and fails to explain how money works, and it was on Washington Free Press. This is the one we're talking about. He's being interviewed, but yeah, it's talking about like it's Biden's economic advisor tries and fails to explain how money works. Washington Free Beacon.
All you guys go watch it if you really want to be.
It's 1 minute. Yeah, just check it out. It's I got scared. It's if you have the stomach for it. You know, if you don't mind horror movies.
Yeah, it was bad. John Bolton. How did you not know John Bolton, Bryce? John Bolton is a lightweight as bad as Jared Bernstein. They're all a bunch of idiots. Republicans and Democrats, quit voting for them. Thank you, everybody. Good night. AI revolution.
Is that how we're ending?
I'll give you last word.
Polyrazzmatazz.